Hi, my name is Janet Bester Meredith, and I'm in the Department of Biology here at SPU. And I teach human anatomy and physiology and animal behavior and some assorted other classes like scientific literature and sometimes our capstone course and other things like that. I'm here today to talk about my use of Splashtop. Splashtop is an application that is for the iPad, and what it does is it allows me to annotate my slides as I'm talking to my class. So I often circle things with red pen, but you can change the color. So if I wanted to do that, this is what the students would see on the big screen. So I could circle something that, circle this, and I could talk about, just say we'd already in lab talked about the anterior lobe versus the posterior lobe of the pituitary. I could point out where the anterior lobe is, where the posterior lobe is, how they're connected, how the infundibulum is right there, or whatever it is that I wanted to point out. And then if I don't like the way I drew something, I can erase the whole thing, erase all, and then it disappears. You can also use this to pull up little circles. So just say I wanted to put a circle around something. I can, put circles wherever I want to put them. And then we can also make those disappear. You can highlight, you can pick different colors. This one's a highlighter. So if I wanted to highlight certain text, like say that this is the pineal gland, I can just highlight that on there. There's also ways, which I don't use as much of this stuff as I probably should. There's ways to do paper. Hopefully I can get this to work. So I can pick which type of paper I want to use. So just say I want to, I don't know, draw a Venn diagram for some reason. And then I could write on this and just say, put some common characteristics of whatever it is that I want. So maybe I could say we could have common characteristics of the anterior and posterior pituitary and the hypothalamus, just say. So maybe I could label this as hypothalamus. It's hard to do this in a way that you can see what I'm writing because I'm in a weird angle. And then I could say this is the anterior pituitary. And I could put the posterior pituitary over here. And then we could talk about characteristics that made each of them unique. And then we could talk about characteristics that they had in common or whatever it is that I wanted to do. So I direct what's going on the screen directly from my iPad. So I can ask them questions. And as I'm asking these questions, I can just be walking around the classroom. So which type of hormone is this? They can look at these structures and see what we've already talked about. How do these examples fit into what we've already discussed? And then what about these examples? And then if they didn't understand what we're talking about, I can, again, circle things on the structures and emphasize what it is about those structures that makes them fall into that particular category. And so then here's a multiple choice question. Again, I can be walking around the classroom asking them questions about this. So usually what I do for these kinds of questions is I would have them raise their hand. So I have them think about the question, and then I have them raise their hand if they think it's A, if they think it's B, if they think it's C, if they think it's D, if they think it's E. And then I tell them what the correct answer is. And then we can go back and clear up any sort of misconceptions about it, and we can go back and look at the structures that we've just talked about and why they would fit into these particular categories. So another time that this technique has been useful is when there's been snow days or other kinds of issues where we are unable to hold class. So I can use this along with the tech relay recording setup. So I can be at home with my laptop and with my iPad and my stylus and just sit on my bed in my pajamas and record what I would normally be saying during class. And I can label things on the slides and point things out on the slides just like I would in class. So I just have to set up my laptop somewhere and then have my iPad on my lap with my stylus, and then I can get to work and do whatever it is that I need to do. So those are sort of the main kinds of things that I would do with this. And there's a lot of other things on Splashtop that I hardly ever use, but they're probably worth playing with at some point. So you can kind of see how but the control panel is very easily accessible. It's right on the top, and in order to make it appear, I just click on this pen and I make it disappear by doing that. So it's really straightforward, really easy to use. And like I said, it allows me to walk around and be untethered in the classroom and allows me to interact with the students. So if I, for example, wanted to ask them what they thought this was without asking, one particular student, I can also have that particular student write their answers on a slide. So I can give them my stylus and have them put something down. Or if I wanted to ask them something about this particular structure, I could have them label whatever it is that I think is important on this particular thing. It is really easy to use. So all you have to do basically is when you're at the Podium computer, there's a license that everyone on the SPU campus can use this for free. So you have to have something downloaded, an app downloaded on your iPad, and then you log in with using your SPU credentials into the program on the Podium computer. And then your laptop will automatically connect, your iPad will automatically connect to the Podium computer, and then you're free to walk around untethered throughout the entire class. Especially in the active learning classrooms that we have at SPU, being untethered is fabulous because it allows you to walk around and talk to all the students individually at individual tables, work with small groups of students. Sometimes I'll be in the back of the classroom talking to them, showing them something on the diagram, and I can see what are they writing down at that particular time. Is it clear that they're understanding it, or is there something that they're not understanding that I need to go into in more detail? And so if you combine it with a lot of other active learning activities, such as using active learning questions throughout your presentation, or small group exercises where they have to solve problems, then you can, when you're untethered, you can walk around and see what they're doing with those questions, and then have them show the entire class what they're doing by writing it down on the iPad so that the entire class can see what's going on. The only issue that I've had is that some of the classrooms, the wireless connections may not be as strong, and so sometimes it'll drop and then you have to wait for it to pick back up. But other than that, I haven't really had any problems with it, and it's like one of my favorite things to use while I'm teaching. So it's fun because it makes me really excited about teaching, I think it just increases the level of enjoyment of the students when I'm jazzed about using something and being able to interact with them as we cover complex ideas.